Welcome to Maeder and Friends. We say that you're too scared to post. No filtered minds, no unspoken thoughts.
Something I think that is not looked into enough when it comes to protecting kids and just protecting people under the age of 18. So let's say the minors, is games that have loot boxing. Now, loot boxing comes in a whole bunch of different ways or terms, but overall, loot boxing. Now, this is in kids' games, it's in adult games, you name it. And the thing is, loot boxing is
A form of gambling. How this is passed in so many games where they have minors playing, I just don't know. I mean, I was just shown the other day a card game, Dragon Ball Z game, where it's a glorified loot box. So you pay money to open it, and there's a chance to get something unique. Tell me that is not a form of gambling. It's disgusting.
So you start out at such a young age, that dopamine fix. What's going to happen when minors are now adults and they start going to casinos and then blowing thousands and thousands of money because they want to get that same dopamine effect? Setting kids up or setting up minors up for failure here.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a thing for so long. It can go all the way back to the 90s with the TCG, right? I play Pokemon TCG and all the different TCGs, and you buy packs with money to get a random chance at potentially getting something good. And it's essentially, it really is just gambling. It's kind of like you're acclimating the youth towards spending money or time for the chance of getting something really good, and they get them hooked on that dopamine. I play lots of games with different gambling mechanics, and to be honest, nowadays almost every game has some sort of gambling mechanic to it, whether it be, loot boxes, whether it be things like gacha games where you're pulling for characters directly to play with them. It comes down to, how do you aim to prioritize and protect children, yet you expose them to things like this, right? You can argue that a lot of games have free means to get to those things, but I mean, because it's a gambled chance, you're always going to have a lot of people that don't get what they want, and so they're going to resort to spending money at more chances to get what they want, right? And the prices for these things are horrendous. You could pay anything from $250 just to get a character in a game. Can we think about that for a moment? $250, half the price of a PlayStation 5, and you're trying to get one character in a game through its gambling function, its gacha function. And the fact that this gets normalized, companies, they try to stay within that age rating of 12 years old, right? And to me, that's just shocking. I've got nephews and kids in my family that get really excited at the thought of randomly just pulling a slot machine to get something in their games. It's literally everywhere. Even Roblox has it. Roblox has loot boxing. You can buy boxes for random chances to get stuff, and almost every kid on the planet plays Roblox. Like, this is not healthy. And even if the game provides lots of free ways for people that don't have access to money in order to get the chance to get something good, even if they don't grow up to go to casinos, even though there's a strong chance that they would, right? You're more likely to go to a casino to try and win money if you've gotten addicted to loot boxes and gacha games at a young age, right? But if they don't go to that degree, they will at some point start spending money in these games to get the loot boxes, to get the currencies, to pull for characters. They will. It is inevitable. Once you have monetary access to purchase these things in games, you'll most likely do it. And for me, for example, I'm no better than a lot of these people. I play them, right? And I spend money too. I spend money because I have gotten to the point where if I can spend a reasonable amount of money to get it versus spending time, then I will. but it's because I experienced this thing firsthand that I know that it's not safe, it's not good for kids, it's not good for the space and in the development as a whole, and it really sucks. I don't necessarily know what the world could do to make a solution, because at this point you can't just get rid of it, right? So I'm left to think now if these games should just not be accessible to kids. Kids should not be able to play it, and these games should stop pandering to kids and even try so hard to stay in the realm of kids just to get their numbers up. Because the more free players a game has, the more paid players the game will have because of its popularity and its activity. So it's a very vicious cycle. I've seen people ruin their lives. And I'm not even going to gambling, right? That is a field of its own. The realm of just loot boxing and gacha gaming, gambling in games, I've seen it ruin people's lives. I've seen people spend over $50,000 on a game just pulling for characters or pulling for loot boxes. I've seen people abuse a monopolized control of markets in games just to force other people to spend thousands upon thousands of dollars. I've seen what it does to the TCG space and how people control and manipulate the market in order to profit on these things. They exploit people's FOMO, their fear of missing out. I've seen scalpers take an absolute piss on the community when they mass purchase products just to resell to people, and people buy it because they're addicted to that chase, to that excitement, to that dopamine. So bad. I saw a guy ruin his marriage because he had to pull this female character from a game, and she costed their entire life savings just to get it. And he was upset with his wife because she had a problem with him doing that. What is going on? It's escalated to a point where it's not even about potentially going to a casino. People are just openly ruining their lives for pixels on a screen. And it's not helping that these games specifically target kids, among many other things. Developing these habits, these tendencies, normalizing that it's okay to randomly pull on slot machines and spend your time hours and hours playing these games to get currency to pull these slot machines for the excitement and dopamine to get something good. I mean, there's some games right now that have this thing called a 50-50 system. And the 50-50 system essentially means that if you fail to get the character you want the first time, all you have to do is keep pulling until the next one you're supposed to get of high rarity, and that'll guarantee that it'll be the one that you want. And there was actually a movement of people that are against this because it takes away the excitement of not knowing what you're gonna get. What the fuck?
So when the odds are 50-50, people don't like it. Because of why? There's a higher chance of winning? Like, come on, that is just retarded, dude. And you know what's even crazy? Now, I mean, this is everywhere, right? Doesn't matter what it is. Counter-Strike 2 has got cases, which I'm sure you've heard about before, which it's like a 0.something% chance to pull something decent. It ends up being cheaper to buy this gold item, which is the rare item inside. Sometimes not even the gold one, but inside of these cases to buy it. These are thousands of dollars, and it's that rare, just buy it. But no, people rather open the cases, and there's a reason why the market is so massive. And the thing is, it won't stop because it brings in so much money. And the thing is, when it comes to professional gamers, now I'm staying on the Counter-Strike scene because I know it, kids start out young, right? Like any other sport, some go professional and they're far off from 18. They enter contests or competitions with their teams. And you know who the biggest sponsors are of some of these events? Gambling websites. So you're telling me that gambling sites would sponsor teams, number one, and then sponsor events where there are under 18s competing, and you still sponsor the event. I don't know how that is legal. Someone that is minor, sponsored by a gambling site. How does that sound? I only know this because, like I said, I know Counter-Strike 2. I haven't looked anywhere else, But because this is everywhere in terms of the loot boxes, it's crazy, man. And the thing is, it's not good starting from a young age. Generally, when you're older, you should be more mature. You should know when to say stop. You should know when to seek help. But no.
Imagine that. Imagine being upset because you have a higher chance to get what you want. What are we talking about here? Well, I have heard of Counter-Strike. I watch a lot of content creators that play Counter-Strike, and it really demonstrates almost the pointlessness of it all, right? Because, for example, with the TCG, right, you can spend thousands on buying products, and then you pull for cards, and then the cards aren't worth that much, and that's why I've pivoted to, like, because I have a collection, binders and stuff, I just buy the cards that I like. I might buy a product just for the fun of it, but for the most part, like 90% of the time, I just buy the cards I want. It's so much easier, and I defeat all of the hassle. I feel like a lot of people buy products, and in the instance of Counter-Strike, people buy crates and cases because they always think to themselves, like, what if? So there's a chance. And they think that way, and then they think to themselves, why would I pay for it? Well, I might just get it right here. I just click this button, boom, I could get it. And quickly, you can fall down that rabbit hole of, before you know it, you've spent thousands on something that's probably worth a tenth of what you spent in totality, right? So it's a very dark place to find yourself in. Fortunately for me, I haven't found myself in that situation. The most that I kind of do is when there's specials, I'll get the specials if it's worthwhile price wise, and the monthly passes. Games give these monthly passes where you can get currencies and things like that, or even on like games like Fortnite, I get like a battle pass every now and again if there's skins I like. Not that has any RNG in it, but it's always RNG when you're going to a match. You don't know how it's going to go, and that's going to affect your levels, I guess. But the crazy thing is, like with these tournaments, like the Counter-Strike tournaments you mentioned, these gambling sites and services, they sponsor it. That's because it's a loophole. It's a loophole in the gambling system, laws and regulations, that actually allows them to get more involved. And in that way, because they're sponsoring underage teens, it's almost like they are acclimating them to potentially use their services at some point, or getting advertisement to a bigger audience that is on like the brink of being able to use their platform. It's so scummy the way that these companies go through the nooks and crannies of what's ethically legal and what's morally ethical, just to make more profit and cement themselves for a growing user base. It really is sad, and I don't see it changing anytime soon, but I think a good thing to do, maybe more schools should do it, is try and educate kids on the harms of gambling, and actually educate people, because realistically the only thing we can do is educate ourselves, right? So I feel like more schools and parents especially need to sit down and educate their kids on the dangers of this kind of stuff, and that it's important to, if you have a problem, to seek help from it, because gambling is not the only addiction that corporations, even your own country, takes advantage of. And it won't be the last. It will not be the last. But I don't know, it just peeves me so much that, and even though I'm also a victim and I am a hypocrite to tell people not to do these things because I do them, it's almost like it's such a bitter pill to swallow. And I try so many games all the time, and especially phone games. I feel like that's even more reason why kids should not have phones, period, is because I'm pretty sure 98% of phone games have some sort of gambling mechanic installed in them. And it's kind of like, it's weird because you have all these different policies that these countries are trying to do on, like, managing content that's available to kids. Meanwhile, this one just goes completely under the radar. If you just say that there's in-app purchases available, you're almost exempted from the idea that this is toxic or bad for the audience you're targeting. I feel like kids should just not have access to phones, and these games should just be made to not be available for children. That should not be advertised and marketed towards children. And in the very essence of the game, I'm going to name like Genshin Impact, for example. Genshin Impact's a kid-friendly game overall. That shouldn't be a thing. You shouldn't be catering to children.
You think maybe they cater towards children because they would ask their parents that they need money for this and they need money for that, and then they'll do the whole tantrum cry type thing, and then those weak parents give in and then just pay for it? Do you think, come and think about it now, that's actually a business idea in a horrible and disgusting way? Thing is, I don't know how laws and regulations in countries are going to stop this. I don't know how it could happen, because they'll just find a loophole, dude. It brings and makes so much money for these companies, so they'll just find a loophole and then do this again. You never know. Maybe we will have to give our identification to play these games in the future.
I actually don't think that they cater towards kids for that purpose. I think that they mostly try to do it because, so the way it works, especially from my understanding in gacha games, right? The more people you cater towards, right? Especially casual gamers, gacha games love casual gamers, right? The more people you cater towards, the larger your pool of players is going to be. And when a game comes off as incredibly active, when there's a lot of players that log in every single day and they're engaging in the activities, it does two things.
There you go.
Number one, it makes your current player base look very large. And so that looks good to investors. It looks good to invest in your game because it's very active. There's lots of people that log in and they play it. And a lot of things like, for example, Hoyoverse games, they bloat the dialogue, right? So a quest every single patch update will take you around 8 hours to play through, roughly, give or take. That is 8 hours of recorded data playthrough that looks really good to investors. So not only do you have a large amount of people playing the game, they're playing it for long periods of time, which means that your game is a good place to invest and buy shares into, which makes the company more money. And then the second reason why I think they cater towards kids is because of that activity, it attracts more whales, more dolphins, more guppies, right? They don't care whether or not the kids pay. What they care about is that the kid adds a head count to the game's overall player base, and so that makes the game seem popular to other players who are willing to spend. But I mean, besides that already, there was a massive controversy, I believe it was with Genshin Impact, that they had to openly state in the Google Play Store that there's loot boxes and spending in the game, because they didn't do that before. And a lot of parents complained because their kids were stealing their credit cards in order to make purchases on the game. And so it resulted in a lot of chargebacks being made. Whether or not that those are actually authentic chargebacks, because I know a lot of people might do a chargeback because they didn't get a character they wanted and they spent lots of money on it. Whether that's a thing, not for me to say. But what I can say is, at the very least, that companies do not outright try to target kids specifically because they're trying to get the kids to spend money. They're just kind of using the kids to attract adults to come play the game and spend more money. So it's still scummy. It's a shitty practice. And I do agree. I'm not entirely sure overall what can be done and whether or not a country can actually have regulations put into place to actually prevent this thing, because it's embedded in our souls at this point, right? I'm not shy to admit that. It is embedded in our souls to look for this sort of excitement and to have this part of our daily lives to some extent, right? You can't really get away from it. Not that the gaming industry lets you, because even if you try to get away from it, like we mentioned before, it's in almost every video game at this point. Even mainstream AAA games at this point have been doing that. They either have loot boxes or They have really scummy monetization practices that have like really and cosmetics and all that stuff for sale, which, you know, long gone are the days where you could just pay for a game, boot it up, play the whole experience, get your fix, play it a couple more times if you need to, but you move on. Long gone are those days. Now it's all about what is the longevity of the game. How long can they milk this game for as much money as possible? How many DLCs can they do? I mean, the gaming industry is in a really weird spot, because while I don't agree with a lot of people's sentiment of they don't make games the way they used to, they do make games a lot like they used to, in my opinion, a lot better than they used to. But the thing that draws us back to those games all the time is the fact that there isn't that looming concern of monetization and financial roadblocks or monetary roadblocks that would prevent us from progression. For just as an example, look at the MMO space right now. The multiplayer online space has been an absolute shambles, and people are going back to the olden classics like RuneScape, World of Warcraft, because every single game that comes out nowadays either has really expensive things that you have to buy, or that actually literally got monetary roadblocks that prevent you from progressing if you don't spend money. And for me, I would much rather play Final Fantasy Online and pay a subscription fee every month than having to feel pressured to spend $200 for an upgrade on cosmetics and for gear and experience and materials just so I can progress in the game, or else I feel left out, right? So, I mean, this is kind of like just the way the industry has chosen to evolve, and we as consumers let it. And a little bit off of topic on gambling, I just recently heard that Nintendo was planning to increase the prices of their older consoles by 30 to 50 bucks. And to the point now, instead of buying the OLED, you're better off buying the Switch 2 because it's only $50 more. And I'm like, that is the point. These companies will think of every possible way to make more money. They will even increase the price of 8-year plus old consoles just to pressure people to buy the Switch 2. And we let it. We as consumers, we are to blame. We let it. We let the scalpers get away with buying these things and charging ridiculous prices because we have an addiction. We let companies charge these unreasonable amounts of money for gambling currency because we let it, because we buy it. The best way to talk to a company is through your wallet. If you stop spending, the company knows what they can and can't get away with.
A good example would be EA in the gaming space. Remember what they did with, I think it was Battlefront 2, the Star Wars game, where they had those pretty much a pay-to-win type loot box type vibe.
And if you didn't pay for that, you had to grind hours and hours to a point where they forced you to do it. I mean, it killed the game. And even now, all new EA games, everyone talks about it. You know, so yes, they played a bit too far and they got hit. But the thing is, everyone still buys EA games. So you can, as a company, try something out which is not good at all, and people will still support you in the end. It's crazy. I see it was trending now again recently, but do you remember Fortnite? You know, a massive game where Fortnite were giving back and rolling back millions of dollars on refunds because of tricking players into buying unwanted in-game purchases. And now they were especially targeting children. Similar thing what you mentioned there about stealing the credit cards. It's insane, dude. It's crazy. And the thing is, teaching or making the kids steal your credit card because you said no to them for this purchase. So then that makes them go and steal it. What are they going to do at a later stage in life if this doesn't get sorted? Yeah? You do it once, you'll do something bigger in a later stage. It's generally how it works with most things.
And I mean, if kids are going through the trouble of stealing their parents' credit cards to make these payments, that in and of itself gives you an idea of what kind of damage that these kind of games are doing to the youth. And so I don't know what they're going to do to fix it, but I think any person of a sane mind can agree that these style of games, this monetization practice is not good for the youth. It's not good for the space. It's not good for people in general. And I hate that it's being normalized to this extent where it's just you either expect it to be in every game or you're willing to just ruin your life over it. Why can't games just be games again?